In our morning rounds, the FDA has just approved the first drug to treat postpartum depression. This condition affects more than 400,000 women every year, an estimated 20% of new mothers in the United States. Dr. Tara Narula spoke to one of the handful of women who have tried the drug and shows us its very dramatic results. Good morning to you, Tara.
Good morning, Gail. Postpartum depression can strike out of the blue during what is supposed to be a special time. It's estimated that half of cases go undiagnosed. Current treatments can take weeks or months to bring relief. Now, a fast-acting infusion given in the hospital may offer new hope to families affected by postpartum depression.
I remember being in that picture.
Stephanie and Adam Hathaway had just moved to China when they became parents for the first time.
She was the same size as Monkey.
Shortly after daughter Hadley was born, Stephanie started sliding into depression.
I had intrusive thoughts. It was, your husband deserves a better wife. Your children deserve a better mom.
What had you expected to feel when the baby was born?
Instant love and elation and connection. And they put her on my chest and I felt nothing.
You can do anything.
When Hadley was just a few weeks old, Adam got a frightening call at work.
And she said, I need you to come home.
And then there was this very real fear of what I might do if I put the baby down.
So that's, I think, when we really we had to go and ask for help.
Symptoms of postpartum depression can include sadness, anxiety, irritability, loss of appetite, self-harm, including suicide, and loss of interest in the new baby. What did postpartum depression take away from you?
It took everything. It took my hope, it stole my joy, it stole time. Those precious newborn months, I don't remember them at all.
After 3 months on antidepressants, Stephanie was feeling more like her old self. She and Adam relocated to Connecticut and moved forward with their plans for a larger family. When she became pregnant with daughter Brenly, Stephanie went back on medication as a precaution. How soon after the birth of your second child did you start to feel those same symptoms?
The crying was immediate. It was darker than the first time. The thoughts were more intense, and the fear of what I might do was even worse.
This time, antidepressants didn't help.
Hey, Daddy.
So Stephanie signed up for a clinical trial of a new kind of medicine. Zulresso targets specific brain receptors to rebalance the hormones that spike during pregnancy and plummet after birth. Dr. Samantha Meltzer-Brody, chief of perinatal psychiatry at the University of North Carolina, led the trials and says fast-acting relief is vital.
The currently available treatments are not going to work for generally a month or more. That's really hard to look at someone and say, I know you're suffering tremendously and we're going to start treatment and maybe a month from now you'll feel better.
The new medicine is a one-time intravenous treatment that requires a 3-night hospital stay. In clinical trials of more than 200 women, 70% had improved mood, appetite, sleep, and functioning. Stephanie felt better on her very first day.
Between hours 12 and 18, I noticed a huge difference. Those intrusive thoughts I told you about were gone and they never came back.
Here you go.
And so I call my husband and tell him about it, and he says, Stephanie, I haven't heard the you in your voice in so long.
The same wonderful woman I married, I went to China with, gone through life with, she was back again. It was a really good feeling.
One for Mommy, pick one for Mommy.
Did your daughter say anything to you? Did she notice a change?
She told me she loved me and it was good to have me back. And I took that as more than just coming home.
Women in the clinical trials were followed for 30 days, with most finding relief. Side effects may include sleepiness, dizziness, and headache. It's expected to cost between $20,000 and $35,000.
Treatment sounds very intense. Does insurance cover it?
Well, insurance may cover it. It's going to depend on your insurance plan.
So you have to check that out. But
Yes.
what's the difference between I'm overwhelmed by this baby, because they are a lot of work, especially if it's your first, and you really have a serious problem?
Right, so there is something called baby blues, which many women experience. That's usually within the first couple days or weeks. But if it really persists longer, you know, it's starting at 2 weeks, goes for months or even a year, and it interferes with your functioning, and that's really the important point, that's when you know that maybe I have tipped over into something that's more serious.
Should every mother be screened for postpartum depression?
Absolutely. And, you know, not only should it be the job of the OB-GYNs, but more and more the pediatricians are getting involved, because in many cases they interface with the mom in those first few months months more than anyone else. Spouses need to be aware, you know, but one of the things we were talking about is why is this not mandated part of hospital education before a woman gets discharged? We teach breathing, we teach infant CPR,
How to wrap the baby.
breastfeeding,
Right.
and we're not
Yes.
telling women these are the signs and symptoms of postpartum depression.
Well, I remember after I had both of my children, the first thing the doctor did was turn to my husband and say, here's what you need to look out for when you're going to be home with her. And he was vigilant about both of those. I mean, how important is that for the spouse to know what to do and look out for?
Extremely important. And you know, the spouse in this particular story said the same thing. You know, he really didn't know. He didn't know what to do. And some of the things he did in the beginning of saying, everything's great, we have a wonderful baby, actually made it worse. So it's important to educate both mom and spouse.
Can you have it and not know it?
You could, because some of the symptoms may not be what you think. It may be excessively watching the baby, you know, or anger or anxiety. So it may not look like what you think, you know, postpartum depression should look like. But really, we want to just tell women, please speak out. You know, this isn't something that you have to suffer in silence with.
Don't be embarrassed by it.
Don't be embarrassed. Don't be ashamed. We need to get rid of the stigma around this.
It's a hormonal imbalance.
We think, you know, we don't know really the true underlying physiology, but the thought is the reason this drug might work is that, you know, as it mentioned, your hormones drop after pregnancy, and this particular drug is a breakdown product of progesterone. So you're giving it back, essentially. Yeah.
All right. Very important information. Thank you, Tara. For resources on postpartum depression, you can call the Postpartum Support International Helpline. There is one at 1-800-944-4PPD. That's 1-800-944-4PPD. And there is a link on our website, cbsthismorning.com.